Hello and welcome to a mugshot on the edge. And today we're going to be looking at this specific thug. Yes, I know the title gave it away. So what we have here is the Wee Knives Thug. Let's just put that down there, and I think that's a pretty appropriate knife. This name, I should say, for the knife. This chunky, aggressive-looking little guy here. So this then a Matthew Christensen design. A little bit about that man. He hails from Steger, Illinois, just south of Chicago. And he started Christensen slowly, Knife Works, in 2012 after gaining experience by customizing his own and apparently friends' knives around the sort of 2008-2009 period. And what he says is he specializes in small EDC. Can one say specializes? Generalizes maybe in small EDCs all the way through to overbuilt knives and everything in between. And this is certainly a good-looking little knife from him right in front of us. Right, guys, I'm going to be doing the usual, go through materials, dimensions, and weight, and then dive into design, attributes, and my take on the knife. Right, so let's start with blade. We have a blade of CPM 20CV, very good blade steel there. Handle titanium, back spacer also titanium. In fact, most of the things on this knife are titanium. The pocket clip is titanium, the screws, the thumb stud, the pivot caps, all titanium. And then this knife runs on caged ceramic ball bearings. Right, so let's go through dimensions and weight of the knife. So we've got a blade length of 68.4 millimeters. That's 2.69 inches. Blade thickness, that's 4 millimeters at its thickest point, and that's 0.16 inches. Handle thickness, 13.4 millimeters, and that's 0.53 inches. Closed length of the knife is 96.2 millimeters, and that's 3.79 inches. Overall length, let's get that back open. Overall length is 164.6 millimeters, and that's 6.48 inches. And then weight. So I've got wee stated weights here. Quickly check it on my scale. And as I've mentioned before, and I normally do find that my weights are pretty much the same as wee stated weights. Right, so let's get that cranked up. We're on grams, and let's have a look at that. 123, they've got 124.6 grams, and slightly different, not usually with my scale. Right, let's check that in ounces. They've got 4.4, I've got 4.3. I think briefly I had 4.4 there. There we go, a little bit of a shift, and that's 4.4 ounces. Right, so we're pretty much on the same page. Right, let's get this out and speak a little bit about this very, very handsome looking knife. So we've got a modified Tanto blade. So we have the compound grind, as one normally does on a Tanto bride? On a Tanto blade. Right, so compound grind on a Tanto blade. There we go, that's what I was trying to get out. So we've got a hollow grind on the primary grind, you can see that there, and then a flat grind on the tip. Satin finish, very, very beautiful finish on the blade, and a very, very neat edge, by the way, while we're speaking about nice finishes. Neat edge, sharp out of the box, as one does expect from wee knives. Right, so what else did I want to speak about on the blade? Well, there's quite a lot to speak about, actually. So we've got a nice little sharpening tool there, so easy enough to keep this, well, I say easy enough to keep this knife tidied up, but we do have a little bit of a recurve there, which does pose its problems to amateur sharpeners like myself. And of course, you've got the two edges that one wants to contend, one has to contend with. Boy, battling today on a Tanto blade. You can see from that sharpening tool, there's tiniest little ricasso sticking out just over there, and it kind of runs close to the handle, but then stretches up, widens at the top around the thumb stud, and then it separates the primary and tip grind from a swedge running along the back of the blade, the spine of the blade there as well. Very neat, crisp blade, this beautifully finished and very attractive looking as well as the light catches it. Spine of the blade squared off, and then you can see it narrows at that swedge portion before finally tapering off to the tip of the blade. Right, I think that covers off everything on the blade. Maybe let's just look at the markings there quickly. So we've got the Christensen Knife Works logo. Let's try to get a nice angle where it'll come out on the camera so you can see that just next to the thumb stud. Right, let's get into the handle of this knife. So, nice shape to the spine of the knife. If you see, there's just a slight little curve. If I turn it that way, maybe you'll pick it up. A slight little curve to the spine of the blade. So it sort of curves that way, and then when it meets the handle, you've got the curve running this way. So you have that sort of slight sweep to the knife. That really is attractive. And then the drop of the handle at the back. And the drop of the handle just means that it fits really nicely into the palm of your hand. So let's look at that while I've got it in that angle. So there it is in my hands. It is a short, stubby little knife, this. So my medium-sized hands, I've mentioned before in other reviews, I wear a large glove. I just get my 4 fingers onto the blade. So bigger hands, you are going to stray off the back with your small finger, but it is one of those sort of small, chunky, purposely designed that way EDC type knives. So we don't really have a forward finger choil on this. We've got the sharpening choil, and to me it does kind of feel like it needs that. It's sort of more comfortable if you move forward on the blade, so you can kind of choke up on the knife, but you need to be careful because there's not, as I mentioned, a forward finger choil on the knife, but it does sort of feel better in your hand when you move forward on it. Just bearing in mind, you've got to be careful with that finger. A little bit back, it does seem to be one of those knives that pushes you a little further from the blade than maybe you would like to get. And then, as I said, you just get your hands on there. All right, so let's look at the finish on this handle. Really beautifully finished. So the handle, quite clean and uncluttered, but it has this hand-rubbed finish to it that is really gorgeous. Beautifully done, beautifully finished, as WE knives always are. It's been a while since I've had a WE knife on the channel, and you know, getting another new WE knife in your hand, you just realize that they are the masterclass when it comes to finish on production knives. This knife just is superbly finished off. But again, getting back to that hand-wrapped finish, really beautifully done. And that on both sides, on the show side and the lock side. And that finish actually continues on to the pocket clip. It really does, like I say, it does look gorgeous. And in fact, that finish even carries on to the backspacer. So we've got the titanium backspacer there, and you can see the titanium backspacer just pulls back a little bit to expose your one single standoff, and a nice little bit of shaping on that standoff as well. And that's obviously for your lanyard attachment. A little bit of extra finishing around the pivot as well. So if we just look at that, there's a little bronze, it looks stone-washed finish on that pivot cap with the WE logo in the middle, but slightly raised around that as well. Again, just beautifully finished. The attention to detail in this knife, absolutely superb. And then on the lock side, you have the same thing. So you've got that bronzed pivot cap, and then the actual big screw also bronzed with that same stonewash finish. All the hardware, by the way, talks, if I haven't mentioned that before, so easy enough to get open and get into this knife. A little bit of detail as well. Let's just get that closed. A little bit of detail there around the lock as well. So you've got the little bars run through that relief cut where the lock flexes, but another little bit of extra detail around there. And then we've got the usual stainless steel insert on that frame lock. So you get stainless steel on stainless steel lockup, and then if you look on the inside there, I'm going to show you, you'll have to take my word for it, but you do have the over travel stop on that as well. Really, but a very gorgeous looking knife. Quick glance at the notes here, just make sure that I haven't missed anything else that I really want to speak about. I think I've spoken about most of the things on the handle, on the knife, I should say. Just to have a look maybe a little bit closer at that pocket clip. So we've got tip up right hand only. You can see the little bit of a curve to that, but that beautiful finish, that hand rubbed finish on that as well. If you look on the side there, so while the clip is mounted close to the top, it's not one of those wraparound type pocket clips. So you can see that there is a little bit of space still at the top of the knife. So this isn't a particularly deep carry. So that in your pocket's going to be kind of about like that. You're obviously going to see the pocket clip as well. So you're going to see a little bit of the top of the knife sticking out as well. But one of those that's slightly angled, so should pull the knife, if it's in your right-hand pocket, a little bit out of the way of any other goodies you might have in your pocket. But I did say not reversible. Also a little bit countersunk into the handle, and then we've got the 2 torque screws holding that on. But a very, very tidy, gorgeous looking knife, this, and it's the kind of knife that does appeal to me. I do like these sort of smaller, chunky knives, and I'm going to pull in a few others in a second, a few other knives in my collection that have this similar sort of size and chunkiness, and you'll see that I am particularly attracted to this type of thing. The action, by the way, we're on those caged ceramic ball bearings on the knife, and the action on this knife is just superb. So you can really get a good flick out with the thumb, and then you can, and I will screw this up when I do it under the camera, but you can, I don't know why, I always, there you go, you can spidey flick him out. I need to thank Jedi Master Bowen for teaching me to do the spidey flick, but Bowen, maybe you didn't do such a good job, because I always screw it up. I seems still the apprentice spidey flicker. It's the angle under the camera I figured out that I'll always struggle with it, but there you go. It does, trust me, it spidey flicks out beautifully, this knife. Just absolutely great, very smooth action on the knife. Nice detent as well. I don't speak too often about that on a knife, but when a knife has a nice detent, it really is nice. There's very little negative to say about this very, very beautiful, beautiful knife. Let me speak a little bit about the other options on the knife before I do forget. So you do get a couple of color and finish variations on the knife. Let's put it down on the show side while I speak about that. So on the handle, they all have this hand rubbed. Well, they don't actually. So let me take that back. The titanium handled versions all have this hand rubbed finish. But what is quite nice is you get the same, I say the same, it's also gray, but in the photos it looks like a slightly lighter gray, also hand-rubbed finished handle, but that has a hand-rubbed finish on the blade as well, and that really does look beautiful. That finish sort of flows continuously onto the blade as well. Also with the bronze finish around the pivot cap. And then you get one that has marbled carbon fiber on the show side, but titanium on the lock side. And that too has the hand-rubbed finish on the blade. So that also a very, very attractive looking one. This though, I haven't had the one with the hand-rubbed blade in. I think the one with the hand-rubbed titanium and hand-rubbed blade probably really would look good, looks good in photos. But I do particularly like this one as well with that satin finish on the blade. Gorgeous, gorgeous looking knife. And then quickly before I forget, let me just give my gratitude to Blades and Triggers. This is another knife that has been supplied by them for me to look over for a few days and do this review and share that with you. I really do appreciate them supplying me with knives to have a look at. So check this out and other Wee knives on BNT Online, and other knives in general and other goodies in general, so that on their website BNT Online. Right, now I'm going to do the usual size comparisons, but I've brought in, I mentioned those other knives, so let's have a quick look at that. And I'm not sure how to put this down, so I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this knife open in that so that I can have a little bit of space on either side to get those other chunky knives out. So the other one I had to bring out, of course, is the Medford. Oh, and a very dusty, dirty, never mind that. So this is the Micro Praetorian, and this was the G with the G10 on one side. You can see those two very similar, chunky looking little knives. And then the other one was the Zero Tolerance, and this is the Les George design, and this is the 0900. Again, very similar sized knives, those. Doesn't that look Wow, that looks really, really good. Then the other one was the Kaiser Rogue. Let's get that out. So that with a Warney blade, but again, that same sort of size of knife. And I think I had another one. Yes, I did. And this is an old Wee knife, the Wee Valiant. Again, one of those chunky sort of knives. These other knives in my collection, you can see that I am attracted to this size and shape. I know that the blade shapes are different, but I'm talking about the sort of chunkiness of those knives. But that gives you a sense, if you know any of those other knives, the sort of general size of that knife. It is, it is a tempting knife, this, for me. Should I do a quick switch onto the, in inverted commas, show side of those knives? Let's just do that so you can see that quickly. I know that it's going to, unfortunately, distort it a little bit when they lie like this, but man, that's gorgeous. It's really beautiful. And I'm going to close them as well so you get a sense of what those knives are like, when you actually carry them in their closed positions in your pocket, as I hope you do. Safety first. Right, let's get a look at those again. Wow, isn't it just absolutely... Wow, that is nice. Beautiful. Right, let's get these guys all out of the way and then get back on this thug. A thug that I actually do like. A lovable thug, shall we say. Let's lay that down. And then I'm going to do the size comparisons with the knives that I usually do use. And I always do say that I use these knives because they've been out for a long time, or because people probably will know them. They're readily available. So this one, the relative newbie now, how long can I still say that? So this, the Paramilitary 3, the smaller version, give you a sense of that. So you can see similarly sized, the Para 3 a little bit longer, but certainly not as chunky as this little guy. And the other one is the Spyderco Manix 2. Give you a sense of that too. Let's get that out the way. And where is it? The Medford Slim Midi. Pop him out. Right, so certainly a bigger knife in terms of length, but again, not as chunky as this Wee knife. Give you a sense of that from the top a little bit to give you a sense of the thickness. Right, and then the last one that I do use is this, the Benchmade Mini Barrage, a knife that has been out for a very, very long time. So you can see in length the Wee Knives Thug actually slightly shorter, but generally it feels like a bigger knife just because of that chunkiness. And I wonder, it might not actually even be, it's not even thicker than the Benchmade Mini Barrage. Yes, that silence was, I forgot the name for a second there. But it just gives you that impression of being a chunky little guy. So all in all, another beautiful product. I mean, certainly beautiful. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but certainly in beautiful, it can't be argued. The finish of this knife, as Wee knives really always are, a gorgeously built, put together piece. This and as I said, this style of knife really does appeal to me. As you can see, I mean, I've just shown you a few of the others that I have that kind of size and shape in my collection, but it does really attract me, this sort of knife, and this one very, very tempting for me again. Guys, I think that's it. I think I have covered off everything that I wanted to on the knife. So again, a quick glance at the notes, and I've mentioned this before in, I think, the previous reviews. I always do forget something. I always pick up something that I've forgotten to mention after the fact, but I think I've covered off everything on this knife. So all that's really left for me to do is, as I always do, really thank you for joining me. Really do appreciate you swinging by. And as I always say, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and the bell icon too, so that you can be notified every time I release a new video. Because again, as I always do say, I would really love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well and God bless.